Design is always about sparking curiosity in the viewer. Through that curiosity, you can start to communicate ideas and you can start to negotiate with perceptions. My name is Fernando Laposse. I'm a designer based out of Mexico City. My work specializes in using natural materials and how these natural materials can then connect with farmers, especially indigenous farmers here in Mexico. So I grew up in Mexico City. My dad is a baker and my mom is an artist. One of the people that used to work in my dad's bakery is called Delfino. He comes from a little village called Tonahuixtla. When I was a child, my parents, trusted Delfino enough to visit his village and spend some time in his village with us as children. It was a very sort of formative experience. It made me realize from a really young age that Mexico is comprised of so many different kinds of people with so many ways of living. I stopped visiting Tonahuixtla for about 10 years, and my return to Tonahuixtla was quite a shocking one. I just saw this barren wasteland. What we've been trying to do for the past decade is to regenerate the farmland around this village that was very heavily eroded during the 1990s, working together with an indigenous community to get what they lost back. My first big project in conjunction with this community is Tonahuixtla. It's a technique that I developed to turn heirloom corn husks into a veneering material. It's sort of like a very thin material similar to a wood veneer that is applied to furniture surfaces. We've been collaborating with the world's largest seed bank specializing in corn seeds that have helped us reintroduce 8 varieties of heirloom corn that were lost in the 90s. And what we do together is transform these leaves into the new veneering material, creating this sort of parallel economy where farmers can live more off the leaves rather than the grain of the corn. It's a project about restoring biodiversity. The next challenge was erosion. What we've been doing over the last 10 years is creating a system of reforestation. When you think of reforestation, you think of big trees. But there's almost no water here and there's basically no soil. The only plant that really can manage to grow with these conditions is agave. What we've been doing is creating these physical barriers on the side of these mountains where we dig trenches, and in front of every trench we plant an agave. When the rains come, these holes become full of water. That water starts to permeate to the water table, and the agaves retain the soil, create new soil, and invite new plants to be able to return. I just did a trip to Tonahuixtla a couple days ago, and I was very, very pleased to see that our system is really working. We have to prune these plants to maintain them. Once you scrape the green crust out of them, you're left with a material that is commonly known as sisal. I have a whole range of furniture that is made with this material. It almost looks like hair, almost like horse hair. I call it sometimes vegan horse hair. And probably my most known piece is the pup bench or the dog bench, which are these little hairy benches that you can sit on. This is a process that gets done in the community by the farmers. That allows us to keep planting, that allows us to keep the community working. Another project of mine is my work with luffa. Luffa is a very, very sustainable material because it grows very quickly. It's a fruit that is related to pumpkins and cucumbers. Once it dries out at the end of the season, you're left with basically its skeleton, which is a network of fibers that is typically used in the shower. The challenge here was to basically manipulate it in a way that it could be applied to other furnishings. We cut it open, steam it, and then press it in a hydraulic press with a custom mold that we've made. And that then gets sewn onto a metal frame, and that's what becomes the luffa lamp. With all the materials that I work with, luffa, corn, agave, I like to not lose the soul of the material. So in a way, it's all about minimal intervention. I think a lot of the problems that we are facing with the climate crisis are actually human problems. It's extraction, it's abuse, it's inequality that causes a lot of the environmental issues. By rebalancing the system, by narrowing the inequality, you can actually not only empower those communities to thrive, but that has a domino effect in the well-being of the environments that they're living in. We are part of nature. There's no division between us and nature. We've been sort of taught by this more Western way of approaching life that we are the center of everything and everything needs to adjust to what we need. Part of this understanding of people that live more traditionally is that, no, there's times where you just can't have what you want and you have to wait for it.